me?
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm glad you're back safe and at peace. And now we can get ready to go live here. I'm a little behind just because we've been working on the new.
Kind of having a tough time hearing you.
Okay, let me see if I can. Just trying to get everything in place for the new internet radio station, and so we'll be talking about that in short order also. But we are going live right now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
In 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast for all of our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in for the very first time. I'm Pastor Pope, and we thank you for allowing us to come into your viewing environment. And I say we because with us today, as always, the first Thursday of every month, broadcasting live from the FijiWater.com sponsored studio, we have with us Rebecca Boova, licensed and registered dietitian and nutritionist, BeccaTheDietitian.com. Becca, we are delighted to have you with us. Say hello to all of your listeners and viewers.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And I want to just take a moment to say to everyone, I want to remind everyone that Becca is with us every first Thursday of the month. But go to her website, BeccaTheDietitian.com, because we want you to look at all of the insurance companies that she provides services through, so that you can talk with your insurer and see how you can take advantage of her services. And I'll have her announce those insurance companies that she accepts during the broadcast. But once again, thank you for tuning in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, which is brought to you every day by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature, it is untouched by man? It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock, where the water collects in a natural, sustainable artesian aquifer free from human contact until you unscrew the cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. So I'm really excited to have Becca with us, and as you can tell, I got a little ahead of myself because it's a new year. And Becca's with us to share information with us that will enhance our health and wellness. And as she and I were just talking before we went live, that we will be expanding the broadcast through RadioFreeNetwork.com. We will still be broadcasting live on Facebook and on YouTube. But we are going to be launching a 24-hour inspirational internet radio station, which Becca will be a part of also. So I want everyone to stay tuned in. We'll continue to make announcements. But Becca, I'm going to turn the mic over to you so that you can discuss the topic today that is going to enhance the health and wellness of all of our listeners and viewers.
All right. Well, again, Happy New Year, everybody. Most of you probably don't know this, but today is actually National Bean Day. So I figured, in honor of the holiday, I'm going to talk a little bit about fiber, which is one of my favorite nutrients, actually. So you've probably heard a little bit about fiber, maybe just through your doctor or whenever you hear about health and nutrition and how to follow a healthy diet. But what actually is fiber? So let's go through it and talk about it. So fibers are actually a type of carbohydrate. But they're a little bit different than the other types of carbohydrates. And those other types of carbohydrates would be your sugars and your starches. So they fall under the same category, but the difference between fiber versus sugar and fiber versus starch is that fibers are actually not digested by the body. So we eat them, they go through our GI tract, we excrete the fibers when we have a bowel movement, but we never actually absorb the calories that are associated with those fibers. So we will absorb the nutrients and the vitamins and minerals and antioxidants that are found in those foods, but we don't actually absorb the fiber itself. So this can be a really good thing. for a whole lot of different reasons. But one is that, it's going to keep you full without actually, contributing a large amount of calories to your daily total. So most of the common sources of fibers would be your whole grains, fruits, vegetables, the fresh fruits and vegetables, and then your legumes and nuts and seeds. So there's two different types of fiber, and these are pretty important because each one of these different types functions a little bit differently. So there's soluble fibers and there are insoluble fibers. Now, soluble fibers, they are dissolvable in water. So whenever we eat these soluble fibers, they're going to get absorbed into the water or the fluid that's in your gut. And a really great thing about these soluble fibers that, along with being absorbed in water, they actually absorb excess cholesterol that's in your gut. So it's going to naturally help lower your cholesterol levels by eating these soluble fibers. So some examples of these types of fibers would be like oatmeal, nuts, beans, lentils, apples, and blueberries, just to name a few. The other type of fiber, insoluble fiber, this is not dissolvable in water. So this is the type of fiber that's really going to be helpful for moving things along in your GI tract. And these types would be more of your whole wheat bread, whole grain couscous, brown rice, legumes, carrots, cucumbers, tomatoes, those types of foods. So I mentioned a couple benefits before, but I kind of want to just list them out for everybody right now. So the more fiber that you have in your diet, you're going to have improved blood glucose levels, which is, of course, a concern if you have diabetes or at risk for diabetes. It's going to help lower your cholesterol levels, which is, important if you have diabetes, but also if you have or are at risk of heart diseases. It's going to promote regularity and help prevent constipation. And it's also been linked to a lower overall risk of heart disease, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, diverticular disease, and even actually breast cancer. All right, so I'm going to pause right here just because I know I've thrown a lot of information, so I just want to take an opportunity to see if you have any questions, Pastor Poe.
So Becca, if you would, take us through the benefits of like oatmeal, and I know the old expression, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but you talked about it lowering cholesterol because someone did have a question about cholesterol today, and so, could you explain to our listeners and viewers about understanding their numbers for cholesterol?
Sure, absolutely. So whenever you get your annual lab work done, they check a few different things. So they check usually a CBC panel, a CMP panel, and then they'll also do a lipid panel, which is going to tell your cholesterol level. So there's total cholesterol, HDL, LDL, VLDL, triglycerides. There's a whole bunch of different things in there. The most important ones to look at would be your LDL, which is the bad cholesterol. So we want to keep that within normal limit as much as possible. Another important one would be the HDL, which is the protective cholesterol. So this is the one that we definitely want to make sure is in a good range. So usually for the LDL, we want it to be low, and the HDL, we want it to be high. Those are the two probably most important cholesterol levels in terms of your heart disease risk. And of course, the triglycerides will be important too. So does that answer your question, Pastor Pope?
It does, and it answers the question for one of our listeners and viewers because they were, trying to understand their cholesterol levels. And what would you say is the normal limit in the LDL? I think it was.
So LDL, we want that to be less than 100.
Okay.
So that would be ideal to keep the LDL less than 100.
Excellent. So, one of the things that happens, I think, for some people, all doctors are not created equal. So let's first of all understand that. I realize they have a medical degree, but all doctors are not created equal. So if someone's not explaining those numbers to you thoroughly so that you can understand, this is why Becca's going over them with us today, so that we get a clear picture of what those numbers mean, so that we can enhance our health and wellness. Now, one of the things, Becca, that you mentioned also, so you mentioned oatmeal, you mentioned apples, you mentioned a couple of other fruits, and you talked about whole wheat bread. So I'm going to kind of personally, because I made a comment about this recently on the broadcast, because we're just trying to do things differently in the new year. And what happened is that I had my annual physical, and my doctor told me I needed to lose 9 pounds, and that's a conversation that Becca and I will have off the air at a later time, because she had been enjoying her holidays and I didn't want to disturb her. But I've lost 5 of that, and one of that I lost simply, I believe, by, of course, exercise. But I haven't eaten any wheat bread. I haven't eaten any bread. And so in a month. So I'm really noticing that that's had an impact. But I prefer, of course, wheat bread. And as I said on the broadcast, I usually eat bread when I go out, because the restaurants that I go out to usually have really good breads, but I'll only eat the dark, the brown breads. So what is the benefit of eating wheat bread for those who are still eating bread as opposed to eating white bread?
So wheat bread is just going to have more fiber. The difference between wheat and white bread is that white bread is refined, and it strips down all of basically the fiber that is around the wheat particles. So it strips it down to the bare bone, basically, and it actually eliminates some different nutrients in that process as well. So if you actually compare the nutrition facts label of white bread to wheat bread, you'll notice that white bread does have less calories, but whenever you look at all the other information on the label, like the fiber content, maybe the added sugar, and then those different micronutrients, the profile of the wheat bread is going to be far superior to the white bread, just because it is so much more nutrient rich than the white bread.
So I wanted everyone to hear you say that, Becca, not just hearing it from me, because I don't eat any white bread at all. I had to confess that when I go out to dinner from time to time, I would eat sourdough bread, but now I'm more conscious about that. But I wanted people to hear the difference between eating white bread versus wheat bread, and it's going to have an impact on our health. So we have to be conscious about all of those little things that we can do to improve our health and wellness. And so, Becca, I'm going to let you continue, but I just wanted our listeners and viewers to hear your comments.
Absolutely. So I do just want to kind of outline what the recommendations are as far as fiber intake goes for men and women of different ages. So for adult women, it's recommended to eat at least 21 to 25 grams per day. For adult men, we want to be trying to aim for, or not we, I'm not a man, but you would want to aim for 30 to 38 grams per day. And then as far as children go, so up to age 5 should be eating 10 to 15 grams per day. Up to age 10 should be aiming for 15 to 20. And then up to age 15 should be aiming for 20 to 25. And then at that point, above 15, we want to fall in line with those adult recommendations. So a few tips related to that, just because, we want to go about this carefully, because, if you go from eating no fiber to a ton of fiber, you're going to have some problems. So along with, eating those fibers, we definitely want to be hydrating really, really well. So drinking plenty of fluids, because that's going to help move things along in your gut. And it's also really important to gradually increase your fiber intake. So rather than one day going from 0 to 30 grams, we want to gradually add about 5 grams week per week. So maybe the first week that you start working on your fiber intake, you add 1 extra source of fiber today and add, about 5 grams every day for that week. And then the second week, once you've gotten used to it, you could go up to 10 grams. And then the third week, you could go up to 15 grams. But we want to go about it very slowly and gradually, just because if we do too much too soon, you're going to have issues like gas, bloating, abdominal pain, maybe even constipation or diarrhea. So it can, there's such a thing as too much of a good thing. So we just want to be very careful, and I want to caution everyone about that. But just to kind of throw another figure out there, I was reading earlier today that the average American only eats about 15 grams of fiber per day. So if you're a woman, that's not so far off from the recommendation of at least 21 to 25 grams. But if you're a man, that's only half of the low end of where you need to be. So it is really important to, incorporate those fiber-rich foods in your diet, just to get those different health benefits that I mentioned before. So real quick here, one last thing, just a couple quick tips to increase your fiber intake would be, instead of juice, choosing whole, fresh fruits, replacing any refined grains like white rice, white bread, or pasta with those whole grain sources. So choosing, instead of white rice, doing brown rice, a wild rice, or a long grain rice. Instead of white bread, doing the wheat bread. And then instead of regular pasta, doing like a whole wheat, or maybe even a lentil or chickpea pasta. Those are pretty good. Another tip would be to snack on raw veggies instead of chips and crackers, candy bars. Maybe pair it with some hummus or some salad dressing or something for a little flavor. And then last tip would just be to add beans or legumes to your meals 2 to 3 times a week. You know, you could add it as a side dish, or you could even do it in like a soup or a chili, like that.
Excellent. And I love soup, and vegetarian beans. I love vegetarian beans. So I'm with you on this, Becca. I think this is real important for all of us to make certain that we're getting enough fiber. But before we go further, because we are going to go further, I just want to do a little business for our sponsors. This segment of the broadcast has been brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you're not currently a T-Mobile customer, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will move you into our queue so that you may become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees are included in your bill, and if you auto pay by attaching your credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill at T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. So I need to say this also. I intended for Becca to be on screen for all of you to see her lovely face and for her to be able to share with us by today. Unfortunately, as you know, we have some technology issues that we have to address, and so we're gonna continue working on that, getting that resolved. But Becca will be with us every first Thursday, as always. She's still with us throughout the year as our monthly contributor, BeccaTheDietitian.com, who will share tips with us so that we can enhance our health and wellness. And Becca, someone sent me a communication. One of our listeners and viewers sent me a communication, and I don't even know that I'm going to say this right. But are you familiar with a Pegan diet?
What was that?
A Pegan diet?
Pegan?
Yes.
Pegan. I am not sure. I mean, is it the vegan diet?
So no, it actually, and this is why I'm really not even sure I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's all organic. It is all vegetables, cooked and raw vegetables. And I just, I had to ask this question because one of our listeners and viewers asked me about it, and I am not familiar with the diet, but somehow it seems like we might be missing some protein in that. And they also, said that, of course, that we've been talking about staying hydrated, and they said, of course, you have to stay hydrated when you're doing this, but is it healthy? And I'm just not familiar with it, so I thought I would ask our expert. What about an all organic or raw fruit and vegetable diet? Does that make sense to you? Is it something that's beneficial, or is it just another one of the fads that we see from time?
Yeah, so all organic fruit and vegetable diet, definitely it's always good to do your fresh foods because they're going to have your fiber and all of your different nutrients. I want to be careful with the organic thing. I don't want to say that you necessarily have to follow an organic diet. If you have it in your budget to allow for that, I think that's great. I don't think it's totally necessary to eat all organic. Certain foods are more at risk for having, pesticides and different contaminants in them than others. So anything that's grown in the ground is better to do organic versus non-organic. But there really is no nutritional difference between organic and non-organic foods. So you're going to get the same nutrients from like an organic banana versus a non-organic banana. there might just be, there could be pesticides and chemicals that were used in farming those different fruits and vegetables that might be harmful. But we also have to trust that, the FDA is inspecting all these different products that are used to grow our crops that we're, eating. And we have to trust that they are only allowing things to be used that are safe for us to consume small amounts. But with that, again, you just want to be careful, making sure you're getting enough protein. If you are not including animal sources, making sure to include plenty of protein from those plant-based sources. And just to comment real quick on the vegan diet, I did a quick Google search. It looks like it is a combination between the paleo diet and the vegan diet. So this is interesting. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research, but I can definitely, get back to you guys next month on this one.
Excellent. And I will tell you, I didn't have time to read myself up on it, but I thought I would check with you on it because I didn't know if there were any real benefits to just eating organic, but the listener and viewer who sent this communication also wanted to know if that type of diet would have a greater impact on their cholesterol, their blood pressure, things of that effect. So you're saying it's a combination of the two diets, the paleo and the vegan?
Paleo, yes, that's what it looks
Okay.
like, paleo vegan. So paleo just means that, around in the Paleolithic era. So it's basically reducing processed foods in your diet, choosing more fresh, whole. And then it looks like it has about a quarter of the diet is made up of your animal products. So meat, poultry, eggs, and fish. It would be a good diet, but with any diet, you just have to be really careful about how you go about it and making sure you're getting the right balance of all those different nutrients that you need.
Okay, so I knew Becca would find some information for us, but she shared with us that she will do a little more research on it and determine whether or not it's good for us. And so thank you for sharing that information, Becca, because I just wasn't able to respond to that communication that came in based on the fact that I just did not have the opportunity to research it. But having said that, one of our listeners and viewers also wanted to know, is there any particular diet or is there any particular nutritional information that we could provide that would help them with focus and memory?
With focus
and memory.
Memory.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, great question. So the Mediterranean diet, and I know I've definitely talked about the Mediterranean diet before, but this diet, like I've definitely said, was voted the best diet last year for a whole bunch of different reasons because it can help reduce your risk or control diabetes, heart disease, Alzheimer's risk, dementia, things like that. So it's going to be really good for your brain, which will help with your focus and your memory. So following this type of diet just means eating a whole lot of fruits, vegetables, healthy fats from sources like oils, nuts and seeds, fatty fish. The primary proteins in this diet are going to be your really lean protein. So fish, a little bit of poultry, maybe some eggs and some dairy. But basically it's a diet that has lean proteins, healthy fats, and it's high in fiber. So those are all different things you want to do. And of course, focusing on omega-3s for your brain health will be really important. So salmon, tuna, walnuts, avocados, just things to do those foods you should incorporate.
So what I will say is, I do remember Becca sharing with us about the Mediterranean diet. So what I would recommend, Becca, is that on your website?
I will double check on.
Okay.
I will be sure something out there.
But go on and look around, because if it's on her website, you can get that information, and you can also go to her media section on her website and go through all of the broadcasts that Becca has done, and you can hear her talk about the Mediterranean diet. And of course, she gave us a little additional information today about that. So the Mediterranean diet was voted the best diet for that last year. So that may be something that we all need to explore. And Becca, do you have, and I know we were on the topic of fiber today, do you have any particular information that you would like our listeners and viewers to follow now that we're in January, to start off this new year to really have an impact on their health and wellness? Is there any information that you've read from the medical society that would help us?
Same as I want everybody to make sure to get your annual physical scheduled, take care of that, continue to make any improvement. If you have high cholesterol, maybe make a goal to increase your fiber intake 2 or 3 days a week. Something small just to get you there. So set those SMART goals. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Meet with a dietitian. They can definitely guide you through this.
And not just any dietitian, BeccaTheDietitian.com. Go to her website, and Becca, would you share with our listeners and viewers, and pardon me for interrupting, but would you share with our listeners and viewers the insurances that you accept?
Absolutely. I accept Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Cigna, and Medicare if you have kidney disease.
Excellent. Excellent. So we want to make sure that, and you heard Becca say it, and everyone knows I will be making comments about this continuously throughout the year, making certain that everyone schedules their annual physical. We need to make certain that we're getting our annual physicals so that we know our numbers, we know what we need to do, and then we can depend on Becca and trust, I will say, we've got to do our part. So we'll trust Becca to give us the information, but then we have to put the work in. We have to make certain that we're continuously working to enhance our health and wellness. We really want to get this right. And so I'm going to say to everyone, Becca has given us information throughout the year last year that every one of us should have improved our health and wellness in some aspect. We really should continue working to improve our health and wellness. So all the information she's going to be providing us throughout the year and is going to be helpful. And I'm also going to, Becca, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm going to ask Becca to, in addition to being with us every first Thursday of the month right here in 3D, and soon you'll be able to see her live also. I'm going to ask her to put together a little segment on the radio when we go live on the internet radio, so that it will be looped in so that you can hear from her also throughout the month, just so that it keeps us aware and keeps us up, because she has a career also and she can't be with us all the time. But that's something that she will be able to do on her own schedule, and we'll make certain that that's placed on the 24-hour internet radio station. We want to make sure that everyone is whole in their body, mind, and spirit. And we want to thank Becca always for providing us with information that will help us to do that. So, Becca, I'm going to ask you now, before we close out today, and I just need to do a little business for our sponsor, and then I'm going to ask you if you can share anything with our listeners and viewers that you want them to know for this year as we move forward. I know you mentioned getting our health and wellness checks, make certain that we're getting our annual physicals done, and I really would like if you would give us an assignment, something that we can do, that we're really going to make improvements, great strides in this year. And I know you're going to be doing an interview with Miss Anna Lee, who has been with you since July of last year, and she'll talk about her improvements. But I'd like for you to give us all an assignment, if you would, something that we all can use that will help us throughout this year. But as I do a little business for our sponsor, this segment of the broadcast, today's Daily Divine Direction broadcast, has been brought to you by Charles Tyrwhitt, located in London, the UK. They also have stores in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and at the King of Prussia Mall in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So if you're in any of those areas, stop in at the retail stores. They have everything a man could need: shirts for men, ties for men, suits for men, and accessories. If you're not in any of those areas, you can order from Charles Tyrwhitt at ctshirts.com. They will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. And also The White Company, located in London, the UK, and they also have a store on Fifth Avenue in New York. So if you're in New York, stop in at the retail store. You might see me at The White Company in New York on Fifth Avenue. If you're not in New York, you can stop in, you can order from The White Company at thewhitecompany.com. And Becca, before we close out today, is there any assignment that you can give to all of us, including myself, that will help improve our health and wellness for this year?
Definitely. My assignment I want to give to all of you for 2022 is to start, if you haven't already started, start reading nutrition facts labels. And if you already do, maybe hone in on some nutrients and start to kind of look at the daily value or, start to kind of add those numbers up. So really look at those nutrition facts labels. Take note of what you're putting in your body because it could be affecting your health either in a good way or bad. So I want everybody to, next time you're at the grocery store or if you're going out to eat, even if it's fast food, takeout, going to